Yeah, welcome to the OK Deal podcast. Um, the OK Deal podcast is a podcast started by a company called Happy Media. Happy Media is a company that offers digital marketing services in Namibia. We're still a startup, but we hope to solve marketing problems for SMEs and small entrepreneurs. So this is our first episode, and we thought we would get a bigger turnout than this so far. We did have quite a number of signups, but I think maybe people might still be running a bit late from their work or school schedules. So yeah, today we're joined by Klestina Kauhondamwa, otherwise known as Budget B. Klestina is a good friend of mine. She's hosted several discussions before in her own ventures, but also with a club that we started called the Young Investment Professionals Club. So yeah, I think I wanted to maybe before we get into the discussion, maybe give you guys a bit of a background of myself and exactly why we started this podcast. So, like I said, I'm Lucas Martin. I work in the private equity space in Namibia, essentially managing funds on behalf of investors to manage in or to invest in businesses and then manage those businesses on an ongoing basis. So I've dealt with several businesses. I've sat on or I've worked on several transactions of various sizes. And uh, I think to sum up at least my experience or my short experience in this space is that there's a strong lack of information and a lack of resources available to starting entrepreneurs, not just from a technical perspective, but also from, let's say, a you know softer skills perspective. And so this is why we started the podcast, because we think it's very important that we learn from existing entrepreneurs who already are going down the path and have already established successful businesses. And so Christina happens to be our first speaker, but we hope to have a podcast episode every week with a new entrepreneur. And yeah, I think that's essentially why we started the podcast. So I mean, our first episodes are going to be online, but we expect that we start filming them and start uploading them onto our social media platforms for people to digest and refer back to on an ongoing basis. So we're building out the community on WhatsApp, which will essentially allow attendees to keep track of our episodes and keep up to date with any new upcoming episodes, but also to refer back to old episodes. It won't be a live community just yet in terms of interaction, but that's something that, once we've sort of got through our first episodes, we might then consider, or the team might then consider going forward. So, yeah, like I said, it's very important from my perspective, having seen, entrepreneurs get into starting a business and actually wanting to raise capital for those businesses, but not knowing, they might have some technical expertise, whether that's in renewable energy or, I don't know, agriculture, or whatever the case is, or property, but not knowing exactly, how do you actually run, these businesses, and how do you start them up and scale them, but also manage them on an ongoing basis. So Christina is one of the most inspiring people from my perspective, who's done this, especially because she's sitting in a maybe a situation that is very relatable to other entrepreneurs, which is, you start off working in a job, but then I think maybe your job just becomes a bit boring at some point, and so you go out there and start thinking around, can I actually start a business of my own, or you just have a really great idea and you want to pursue it. And so she's done that, and yeah, she's here to tell her story. So I maybe don't want to jump the gun a bit too much here. So I'll allow Christina to also just maybe introduce herself and tell us a bit more about who she is and yeah, what she does.
Thank you so much, Lucas. So, good evening to all the attendees. Thank you very much for making time. It is the first episode, and we are happy to have a turn up of 10 people. I know sometimes when you look at 10, you think it's a little number, but if it was in person, it would actually be a room full of people. So to actually pitch up to something you don't even know what it is about, I think it's commendable. So thank you for making time to be with us tonight. So I'm Klestina, and I am a full-time employee until now. I have been in the audit field for the last 10 years. So I was a senior audit manager in one of the big four firms here in Windhoek. Then I did a career transition at the beginning of this year into the unlisted or private equity, private debt space. I'm currently working as a portfolio manager at one of the Namibian local firms here. I work for the Mopane Group under a company called Namgro, that is an unlisted fund license within the Mopane Group. And in there, I would really get like sort of experience in terms of businesses and something that is very close to my heart. So I think outside professional experience, I am also involved in a few business ventures, like Lucas mentioned. So I co-founded Empower Driving School. We are a driving school based in Walvis Bay, Windhoek, Oshakati, and Enana. We started off as a code B, the small car, sort of like business, but now we are moving into heavy duty. So our offering is mainly the code C1 in Wabash Bay and code C across three town, code CE across three town and code C across one town. But we're moving really to a place where we want to be offering code C, which is the trucks, across multiple towns in Namibia. So that's the one business I'm involved in. The other business I'm involved in is, of course, my Budget B brand. That's actually a content creation sort of like brand plus consulting. And I think it started off like a hobby in the first couple of years, but I think last year I really began to monetize it, and mainly it was through speaking engagement, paid speaking engagement, and brand collaboration. And I think I'm now beginning to leverage off that community that I've built online to start actually selling other things. And like last year or early this year, we started Seasonal Ladies, where we sell traditional food. And I'm basically just leveraging off that online community that I've built and that trust that I've built within my community to sort of branch out into a new business. So in a long and short, that's about me.
No, awesome. Thank you for that background. Also, I think before we continue, I just want to let our attendees know. I see we have Teresa found it quite insightful, but just to let the attendees know, if you guys have questions for Klestina over the course of this call, please just jot them down or even just type them in the chat, and then we will get to them at the end of the call. So. Yeah, so Christina, I think, I mean, you mentioned your career. It's quite, maybe you would call it a prolific career. You start off in audit, and then you went on into, and now you're currently in portfolio management. Um, and so, most people, if you probably ask them, if I gave you a job as portfolio manager now, they might be very happy about it, and they might say, this is enough for me. But I think I want to understand from you, what made you start those businesses, and maybe did you have like a very specific turning point, or is it more sort of just an idea that came to mind and then you decided to go with it?
So I think for me, when I started off working, I think I had a typical salaried mindset. Of course, I knew I was going to qualify and become a chartered accountant and make a lot of money. So side hustles was never something I would have considered. And I met my husband, then boyfriend, and every time he would bring up a business concept, I would always be dismissive about the business idea. I'll be just like, I don't need the business. Maybe you need the business because you don't see yourself earning a big salary in future. But personally, I do think like I'm secured. And he kept drilling this thing into my head, like, you people do lose their job. You can't just be
Mm.
dependent on a single income. And I think if anything, COVID was a rude awakening of that jobs do come to a complete stop still. And like, for example, the closure of Air Namibia, for example, also was a rude awakening to say things do change. You could be a pilot, very skilled, and the only airline in the country closes down, and then what? So I
Yeah.
think that for me was really the turning point to say, like, while I know that I'm still going to make money as a CA, it's not off limit that I should start businesses. And if I do make a lot of money, good for me, because then I can be able to solve my other businesses without having to stress on a month by month basis. So I think for me, that was really the motivating factor and the turning point while I then got into entrepreneurship.
Mm. No, I echo, not echo the sentiment, but I understand the sentiment. You know, whenever you ask a CA about a business idea, they always have so many questions. And they're like, because I think you naturally, as an accountant, you're just an analytical person. And so you always ask, okay, so how is this going to work? And how is that going to work? And I think that's actually a big, stumbling block for many people, because you get into, what some people call analysis paralysis, where you just start analyzing the thing too much, and then you start off very excited about the idea, and then later on you just get into a place where you just I'm a bit I'm a bit too scared to actually start this thing.
Mm.
So I mean, did you experience something this similar, or yeah?
I think, I suppose, because I had the comfort of, if it doesn't work out, my job will always be there. I
Yeah.
didn't analyze it too much. And I think the one biggest advantage you can take, of course, I think in today's economy, there are two things. There are people that have the capital and they don't have the time. And there are people that have the
Mm,
time and they don't have the capital. And when you can match those, you may have the time, you may have the capital, but don't have the time. But if you can find somebody that has the time and the drive to do a business, and you can partner up easily, that
yeah.
person sort of helps you to get over this what if, because for them, they need to make it work because they have nothing to do. Whereas for you, it's just a side thing in case it doesn't work. So for me, I've always realized that that could be one of the easier ways to get anything off the ground.
It's through partnership. Yeah.
Mm.
No, that's very valuable. I think that's, yeah, it's actually a big, also one of the biggest stumbling blocks is, you have your job, and like you might have capital, you might have excess cash, but you don't necessarily have the time to then be able to run that business sustainably, at least, or to grow it to a sustainable level. So I mean, that's actually, I mean, just speaking of time specifically, right? And you are mentioning that you have money matters with Budget B, you have the Empower Driving School, and I mean, a driving school, I can imagine, is already so time intensive. You're probably managing like so many scheduling between, different customers or clients, and then issues with cars and that sort of thing. Plus, then on top of that, you have your day-to-day job. And I think you mentioned that you have a husband. I think you have kids as well. But I mean, how do you balance all of these things out? How do you, like, do you have a team to manage your businesses, or how do you go about it?
So I think it depends on the size of the business. In the beginning, you will have the time because things won't be busy. So you won't go from a schedule of maybe having 10 clients a day. So it's easier to manage in the beginning. But I think building a very strong team, and I think it's one thing that we undermine as entrepreneurs, we build our business to revolve around us, and we are very hesitant to bring in people, but we don't realize that a team is what will give you flexibility, and it's what will give you freedom. So from the early days of the business, first initially it was just me and my husband that co-owned the driving school, and then my husband found another partner that was also in the driving school that was very driven and had a vision about where this business could be. And I don't actually think, had it not been for that partner, possibly we wouldn't have been at where we are right now, because that guy had a much bigger vision for the business than I would have had it, because for him, he was working in the industry. He saw the challenges that the industry face. He saw the potential with different, code of driving license. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, because we have code B, code C1, code C, and code CE. So CE is the biggest license, but we were in code B, whereas that guy was working for somebody that had a code C1 license, and he was pushing. He could see the difference between the amount of money somebody that has a code B makes versus somebody that has a code C1. So he already saw a bigger picture. So his dream was a lot bigger than what we could have actually taken this business forward. So having that person dedicating and having that drive helped us manage. And for me personally, I'm not on the ground, I'm not an instructor, but I sort of run the finance and the administration. So if the guys are looking for quotations, I will make sure that that quotation goes in before I go to sleep. If the guys are looking for invoices, if the guys are looking for bank confirmation, if I need to do schedules, do recording to see how much money we've made during the month, if I need to do a budget of what we need to work towards in the next couple of months. And those are things I can do after hours. Those are the things I can do in the morning before I go to work. And those are things I can do over the weekend or in between work. If I have to quickly do a quotation for 5 minutes and I have to work in the time or whatever the case may be, those are things I can do. So you always need to figure out how it's going to work with your schedule. And if it's not going to work with you being a full-time employee, you definitely need to find somebody that has the time. And you'd often realize that if you partner up with somebody that has the time and has the same drive as you, that person is almost keen to not draw a huge salary out of the business, although they are working full time, to allow the business to grow, because they now have a vested interest, as opposed to just have a random employee who just wants to be paid market related salary, even if the business is not at the stage where it can afford to pay a market related salary. So I think I'd really circle back to partnership, because that is the only way that is going to help you work. And for example, the seasonal ladies business venture that we started, it was just almost like a joke. With a friend of mine, we said, let's start selling this traditional food. I don't even know where the idea came from. Let's start selling traditional food. You bring 3,000, I bring 3,000, together at 6,000. Let's order a bucket of okatalasha, for example. And I've realized that it works well with us, because my friend is a lecturer. She doesn't work a full-time job like I do, because most of her classes are in the evening, which means during the day she can be able to handle the orders, whereas I can pack orders at night, which means I can get my orders out in the morning. So we are both at work, we are both busy, but we are busy in different ways, and that is what is allowing us to sort of make it work and still be able to create the business we want to build in the long run.
No, I like that. It's actually a bit funny that you guys, that your business is called Seasonal Ladies, but then each of you has your own season where you are operating during the day, which is actually quite interesting. I mean, it's the partnership one is, like you said, I think that's one that I also often see is like a business often identifies with the founder, and they sort of end up being the person running around doing everything. And part of it is maybe also not understanding, how do you build those partnerships, or where do you find those partnerships? But maybe the other aspect might also just be like reluctance to like let go of your business a bit, because you want to sort of control things, or you want to control what's happening in your business. I just want to ask you, maybe have you also experienced that, uh, or have you overcome, that sort of feeling, or how do you overcome that feeling of, sort of maybe putting trust in other people to, share the same vision and drive for your business as you do?
I think it starts about I think it starts with wanting to let go. And I think people that generally struggle to let go of are people that want the business to be about them.
Mm,
Like, we could have easily said that the driving school should be the Kauhondamwa driving school, for example. Or I
yeah.
could have said, the seasonal ladies, Klestina's food delicacy or something. So when you want your business to be attached to the identity, you sort of struggle to let go. But when you say this is a business, and I think sometimes we need to think almost like unlisted asset managers. You start
Mm,
the business, you grow the business, you scale the business, and at some stage you must be willing to let go and sell it. If an opportunity comes and said, I'm willing to offer you 2 million, will you really just hold on to it just because it's your baby? So I think when you start the business with that mindset to say, it's this business, it's going to grow, it's going to go to make money, and ideally it should exist beyond me, whether I'm there or not
mm,
there, the business should be able to. And also, when we identify partnership, we need just to look within our circles or within people that share business interests, because sometimes partnering up could also be what destroys your business if you don't vet your partners correctly. But when you
mm,
engage with people, if you are constantly engaging with me and I'm dismissive about every business idea that you bring about, and I'm not even willing to change my mindset about entrepreneurship as a whole, chances are that if you partner up with me, I'm going to discourage you in the long run. So you want to make sure that you are sort of judging and seeing, how does this person react when I bring up specific conversation? Does this person have a growth mindset, or they are just stuck in a scarcity mindset? And will this serve me in the wrong line? And to be quite honest, there's a lot of people within our circle. We don't even have to look far, within our friendship circle or within our community circle, that we can partner up with, if we just be open-minded and be willing to explore and just hope it goes better. And also just put your mechanism in place. If in a business, what could go wrong? Money could go wrong, missing, or services could be of a poor quality. Then you make sure that you have procedures in place around customer service and how orders are handled, and you have procedures about how money is reconciled. Then you are going to hold each other accountable, and you see if this person is consistently breaching and using business money for personal money, then you address the matter early on, so that you can decide whether you need to part way whilst still airy, or you can do corrective measures to make sure that then the business operate in a manner that which you would have operated had you been running the business yourself.
Yeah, I think that's actually it's a difficult one because it's not often taught, how do you identify those qualities in a partner that maybe, works best with you. And I've read in some instances, some people say find partners who provide you with almost like complementary skills. So maybe if you're good at like numbers, they might be good at like more creative stuff, um, and that sort of thing. But also maybe partners who even you might have differences in personality. Maybe they might be more of a reserved, introverted person, and then they might be very outgoing and social. Is that also something you think maybe people should look into, finding partners with opposite qualities?
I would definitely say, because if you if you all are if you all have the same strength, then you
Mm,
are actually um worse off, because you can do what I can do.
mm,
Whereas if you have different strength, so for example, my husband doesn't have the visionary or dreaming ability that the other partner has. But
mm,
if you tell him this needs to be done, he will do it today. So it almost works best in the sense that, in terms of dreaming for the future and envisioning what we need to do, you can always rely on the other partner to bring the idea. But you also know
mm,
that if you say something needs to be picked up where when the truck is broken and it needs to be serviced, you know for a fact that is going to be done. But also for me, if you then tell me to go do all of that, chances are that I might not do it. But if you say a quotation needs to go to a client now, then I'll make sure that that quotation is there. So I think, because of the fact that you have limited resources, it will actually be better off with you guys having different qualities, or me with my social media, following,
mm,
trying to push a little bit of marketing and getting the business presence out there. It would work better, instead of you guys are all online social media, and no one wants to get their hands dirty to run to Prosperity because a part is broken, etc.
mm. And that's also, I think, a point where I've seen a lot of clashing is where you see, two partners both feeling like they're very good at, let's say, marketing, but they you end up being less productive because you both want to, you both feel very strongly about the marketing as opposed to, just saying, I'm going to focus on the money and then you focus on the marketing.
Mm,
No, but thanks for that insight. So I want to take it back a bit to something that you said earlier, and it was maybe something a bit more exciting just on the actual business, like
mm,
how you guys have grown. And it sounded like, when you was talking about the different codes and how the other business partners saw, how much money was being made in those different codes. I want to ask you, has the business, at least from what you initially conceptualized and what you initially planned, has it sort of met your expectations? But also maybe you can also just walk us through, how did you guys actually scale this business from when you started, like right from the beginning? What was the first thing you guys did?
mm. So at the time, I was a trainee accountant and I didn't earn much, so I didn't have money to spare. But I was saving towards, I think I was saving to buy a car. And I think at that point in time, I had 75,000. And we found, and my husband's, I would say my husband by then, boyfriend, as a early boyfriendhood even. So had seen a chef's park that somebody was selling in Swakop, and I remember vividly because I was in the north and he was at the coast, and he was trying to buy a car when I'm not even in Swakop. Number one, I haven't even seen this car. And number two, you are asking me to send you money for us to go buy a car. Number three, we are not even married. And I remember
Red
calling,
flags.
yeah, and I remember calling my mom and saying, look, there's this guy. But probably my mother heard that story for the first time even. So I was telling him, no, there's this guy. And I think I was a bit hesitant because at that, I think prior to that time, there was a lot of high patient killing in Namibia. So me, I'm thinking, this is not going to work out. And then eventually my mother said, no, for as long as you guys agree, you have an agreement in place, because his idea was we put together money. He had already saved money, and I was just supposed to bring 50% of the money, and he brings 50% of the money. And then we buy the car and we put the car in the driving school. So eventually, after I spoke to my mother, my mother is quite liberal at some stage for her age. So eventually I spoke to her and she's like, it's fine, you can go ahead. If things don't work out, at least you've told me, and you're not gonna like be there suffering alone at work, etc., whatever. So we bought the car. And I think we've been, and at that point in time, I didn't, in as much as I was a trainee accountant, I still could survive on my salary. So it's not that I needed money to be drawn out of the business constantly for me to get a salary. So because of that, it allowed us to save. And because, of course, he also wanted to get this business off the ground, he was also almost drawing nothing out of the business to allow the business to save. And when the other partner now came in and said he actually was looking for someone just at the Natis ground, asking who wants to join a C1 business, because C1 is now the small truck. And I think the truck was 110,000. And so he asked my husband, and my husband, together with the money he had, they were short 10,000. And then they were asking me, I'm like, not again. So, so then I put up the 10,000 that was short to make it 110 for us to buy the C1 truck. Then from that C1 truck, when that C1 truck came in, things just started escalating, because now the income that a code B generates versus a code C1, I think on average it was doing above 30K a month, like net banking. So from that, things started really like escalating, and because they were so determined to grow the business, then they were just letting the money accumulate in their account. And we met somebody that had a business of moving trucks, moving cargo in and out of the port. And that person had a CE truck, the big trucks, and they were so that person had a CE truck, and they were disposing that truck because of the fact that they wanted to buy a brand new truck. And the opportunity to buy a CE truck all of a sudden became a reality, because if you look at the MNZ and you look at the Indongo Toyotas of the world, trucks are in millions. And this person was selling it, I think, close to less than 200,000. So it was like an opportunity for us to buy. But what we didn't realize is the truck was quite old. It took a lot of effort to get it roadworthy to begin with, and to get it functional. Because if you're also using the truck to teach people, it's going to break a lot easily, because people are learning. And eventually we were able to, and all of the trucks, we really just funded themselves with the business money. So we just kept retaining money. Eventually we got that same guy that sold us the truck, gave us an opportunity to import two trucks directly from the UK. So now we were not buying an existing truck from him. We were importing directly from the UK. And he was nice enough, I suppose, maybe because of the relationship we've built with him now, because of working together, he was nice enough to allow us to buy at the price in the UK without him selling the truck to us, which means that we didn't pay him we didn't pay profit profit on the truck. And I think from there, that's really where we started scaling up. So we had now two trucks we had a C1 in Walvish Bay and a CE. Then the two trucks that we bought from the UK, one came to Windhoek, one went to Enana. Then we bought another low-car truck that went to Oshakati. So I think now in total we have about the 5 trucks and 2 small cars. And I wouldn't have imagined, like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, we started this business in 2017.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have imagined by now we have this fleet of trucks that we would have funded with business money. And I think because of the fact that the business is capital intensive, you get to claim your wear and tear of those trucks that you are buying back from NAMRA. So your tax liability
Yes.
is also somewhat manageable, and you don't have to stress a lot with regards to tax liability. So I think that was really a a, a blessing in disguise in the growth phase that where we were. So,
Mm.
basically, in a nutshell, that's the growth story. It really has just been resilience. And I think one of the biggest things that allowed the business to grow, I would say, is allowing the money to retain in the business instead of
Mm.
us drawing it. I think up until maybe within those first 5, 6, 7 years of this business, we haven't really drawn dividends. The
Mm.
money was accumulating, and the aim was to get more trucks. And even now, you still get clients saying, "Do you have code C in Windhoek?" And we have to say, "No, code C is only in Oshakati." So essentially, the ideal structure is you want in each town to have a code B, C, C1, CE, and C. Then
Mm.
it's a complete structure. But of course, you also need to do it in such a way that you don't sort of do product cannibalization, because now if you are in a Nana and Oshakati and you put a code C in a Nana and a code C in a Shakati, it means that people that would ordinarily travel from a Shakati to a Nana for that, they are not going to come there. So putting
Mm.
too many trucks close to each other might actually hurt the business. So now the trick is how far off you spread the trucks, because people that are driving in
Mm.
Walvis Bay don't necessarily live in Walvis Bay. They come from Arandes, they come from Chivarongo. So just because the demand is high in Walvis Bay doesn't mean you must
Mm.
put the truck in the next town, because it just means that those people that used to travel a long distance to Walvis Bay won't make it there, and having too
Mm.
many trucks might actually hurt. So I think it's just those aspects that we had to figure out, and we are still figuring out along the way.
I mean, that is really, it's a very inspiring story. I mean, what you guys managed from the one small Chevy Spark. I hope you guys still have that Chevy Spark.
We do, but we have retired it now. I drive it
Is
to
it?
work often, but I drive it just for marketing purposes because it's branded.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
yes. I think it's the white one, eh?
the white one that I drive
Yes.
often, yeah,
Okay.
it's branded. It can still work, but clients would complain. It's not fit for learners. But me, that is
Mm.
a veteran driver, can still drive it around and get to work safely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. No, that's very inspiring. And
mm,
I mean, the numbers you were mentioning, so like a C1 at that time was you could net 30,000 a month from like, paying, I guess you guys weren't paying a salary for an instructor though.
we were
But
paying one of the partner worked as the instructor, so he drew a
mm,
salary from it, because otherwise then he's
okay.
not gonna survive. So he drew a salary from it, but the rest of us didn't. Me and my husband didn't draw a salary from it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that is quite impressive. 30,000 and then yeah, I mean this is already that is I mean I don't know if you saw in the newspaper the other day, but like they said something around only I think 1% or 2% of people earn more than 40,000 a month. So, saving up to buy a C1 truck, it can actually be put you in a very good financial position.
I think we often underestimate the amount of money in this economy,
Yeah.
and and because if you want to see that there's money in this economy, see how much money the banks are making in bank fees. See how much money the shops are making sales from you buying the goods and
Mm.
services, and see how much money there is for a one mall to coexist, a Checkers, a Shoprite, a Choppies, and they are all in one mall, which means there is money enough to
A
go
lot of
around.
money,
And
yes.
until you go closer to the people that are in that industry, you would never know if you are just looking at a distance. Because even if I tell you, for example, the seasonal lady business that we do, the first month we did that, our gross sales was 40,000 gross
Yo,
name,
yo,
which
that's a
the
lot.
money that we've circulated,
Yeah.
we sold Mopane Wems, we bought Katarashe, we sold this, we sold that. When we circulated that money, we circulated it to 40,000. It doesn't mean we have 40,000, but we have circulated it to 40,000. What does that tell you?
Mm.
It tells you that somewhere Omata open market in Oshakati, a woman is making 40,000, and here you are surviving on a salary of 12,000 and thinking you don't have the time or you don't have the resources, when if you just do a little bit extra, you can generate a little bit of extra income. For me, my expenses will always motivate why I need extra money, because life is expensive, and
Yeah.
the fact that a bank charging you $30 or $130 on your account will turn to billions at the end of a financial year, it just means if you compound your activities, it will also just add up at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, thanks for that insight. It's actually quite, I mean, my eyes are quite open, because I would have thought at least like a driving school, you would maybe need, I was doing the numbers in my head. I was like, okay, maybe a code B would maybe make like 1,000, 1.5 a month, and then I mean 1.5 a day, and then you'd maybe do that for like 20 something days. So that would be about maybe 30 something thousand minus salary, minus maintenance. That would maybe bring you back down to like,
Mm,
15,000 maybe. It's
no,
more than that.
it is definitely more, because
Yo,
on average, a Yango driver,
yes.
on average, if you own a Yango, the going rate at the moment is $500 a day to the owner of the car.
Mm,
So minimum a Yango owner will make is 10,000, and that's just you owning a car. And but that's not how much money you make. That's how much the driver of the car is bringing to you. Then
mm,
above the 500 per day, the younger driver makes. So I think it's because we are not close to people that are making the money, so we will never know. And
mm,
I think for me, because I've been an auditor, I've seen financial statements of different companies. I've seen how much money companies are making, but I've also seen that companies are not doing anything extraordinary. They are just selling
yes.
services, or they are just providing a product. So, what would make my business less profitable? The only difference is if you don't price your product right, then you're going to be so busy and it's not worth your while.
Yeah.
But even a code B, if a code B, if somebody's really, because even a code B, I think if somebody's really busy and they are sort of like um good. The only thing with driving school, for example, and any business in general, is you need to build experience. So for
Yeah.
example, my instructor at Empower Driving School might take a client through code CE 1 month and a half, and that client is out of the schedule. Whereas you and your new instructor, your instructor first has to master the track himself
Mm,
before. And that's the thing with our instructors. All our instructors went through our program. So we took our own people. That's the guy that is currently teaching on code CE came from code C1. The one that is at C1 came from code B. So we sort of trained them ourselves, and they had free access to the track to practice, so that by the time they become
mm,
instructor, you can tell this person, park this car, and they'll park it. But you that is new, to get an experienced driver and an experienced instructor, for you to start seeing results, because driving school is all about results, for you
yeah.
to start seeing results, and for your customers to start passing, that might take a bit of time.
Yeah.
And when we opened the branch in Enana, for example, our senior instructor from Wavish Bay is currently in Enana for 3 months now, because he needs to be there to teach the guy that is going to take over from him. Because if we just send a new truck to Enana and send a new driver, it's going to be a recipe for disaster. That driving school doesn't know how to people are it doesn't know how to teach people. We are not passing. It's a waste of money. But yeah, so basically I think it's experience that will help you benefit at the end of the day. But
Mm,
like and I would always say, with any industry, it's all about collaboration, and it's all about understanding the market. There have been so many times where competitors in the industry would want to do destroyer pricing. You
yeah.
see Empower Driving School comes out with a special and unlimited package, like for code C is, at some stage it was 20,000, I think now it's 15,000. An unlimited package for code C is 15,000, and then they want to make their package 12,000. Then I'll get pressure from the instructor. Yeah, we need to drop our prices because now all the customers are just going to where there's 12,000. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a schedule full of clients and your
Yeah.
truck working at capacity and your margins very minimal because you are trying to compete at the wrong prices. Because if you are competing at the wrong prices and you are making losses at those prices, you're just trading yourself out of business. But
Mm.
if you get your price right and you stick by your guns, eventually your demand might be low, but your truck will have longevity because they're not going to be overworked. Your driving instructors are also not going to be grumpy, and you at the end of the day, you're going to be able to pay attention to your candidate, and your passing rate will improve. So I think it's really
Yes.
just finding that dynamic to see what would make my business stay longer and what is sustainable for me to do and not to do.
Mm. I guess it always comes down to sustainability. You can't rush to jump the gun, you know?
Mm-mm.
Okay, no, I mean, we're almost close to the end. It's actually funny, you know, the time flew by quite
Very
fast.
quickly, yeah.
So, I have one last question before then we open it up to questions from the audience. But do you maybe have any advice for someone who's currently, you know, sitting at home, thinking of starting a business? It can be general, it can be specific advice, or even someone who already has a business that's up and running. Do you have any thoughts of wisdom for them?
I think let me first speak to the ones that have businesses. I've seen people, our uncles that owned one taxi since we grew up, and until
Yeah.
now, the uncle just has one taxi. Ne? And sometimes it's really just a scarcity mindset. Sometimes it's because you haven't seen other people make real money. You think just owning one taxi is okay. It's not okay. If you are a business owner, the business should make your life easier. So it should be your mindset should be about growth, and which means
Mm,
you don't just wake up tomorrow and I want to file tax returns, for example. I want to file tax returns, for example, but how many returns do I want to file per day or per week? So you must set targets and work towards those targets, because if you don't have any targets, you're not going to have any any way to benchmark whether you are progressing or not progressing. That's why
mm,
years will go in and out and you have nothing to show for it. And most importantly, the aspect of retaining business money is very important. We could have been in the same cycle of people. There are still driving schools that have been there longer before us, but are still operating on one car or two cars. It's because the business is coming in, the owners are funding their lifestyles using the money
mm,
that the business is generating. Instead of saying, let's let the business run, and then maybe at the end of the day, we do a dividend declaration, we take money once, but let's allow the business to grow. And most importantly, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So in between there, we've also tried to get into the fishing industry. We bought a freezer truck. It was also a lot of money because it was a freezer container that could, refrigerate fish while it's being transported. But we quickly realized the whole fish rot thing messed up the demand of the supply of the fish. We will get to the
mm,
fish factory. We want 12 tons. They can only give us 6 tons. But now you can't drive a whole truck to the north at half capacity, because then your
mm.
input cost is very high. So realizing, but we had to quickly sell it, exit, so that we can recover our investment. So if you do get into a business and you realize it's not working, you can't be embarrassed. No, we saw the Kahondamwas had a fishing company. Now the fishing company is gone. We're just trying to cut our losses. So it mustn't be emotional. It must be business decision. If it's working, and the only way you're gonna know if it's working is if you are tracking your numbers, and if you are now using the facts to support your decision.
Um,
For people that are starting, that are planning to start, often people are far fetched, like looking for ideas, looking to reinvent the wheel. I need to maybe come up with an app that will solve what. No, start with essential services. You know for a fact people will always eat. If you can sell food, you know for a fact people will always wear things. If you can sell clothing, find an essential services, and then maybe in that essential services is where you build your capital. And we actually don't realize, most of us thinks we are good business people, but we are not. The moment you get one call from the client, your driving school is crap, I did that's the driving, the client will even take you to the police, then you've given up, you've gone in your shell.
mm,
But if you start small and you learn the basics of business management in your small venture, by the time you go and risk your capital, or by the time you take that leap of faith and decide to leave corporate, then you would have learned a lot, then you would have mastered the art of your business management, and then you'll be safe to take that leap of faith and not regret why you left your job. So I would always say, start with what you are comfortable with, and most importantly, partnership. There is
Yeah.
enough to go for all of us in this economy. There is enough to share. And like recently, I did a consulting job, and I quoted them like about 20,000 to do the job, but I knew for a fact I have zero time to do the job. Zero. I don't have time.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, I was in Cape Town. I called my friend. I said, Sharp, you do the work, I review, and then we split. I could have been greedy and say, I'll give you 20%, but she did most of the work compared to me. So it's only fair we split 50-50. I'm the deal originator. I did
Mm.
review, but without her, I couldn't have been able to do that job. So collaborations like that, and looking within your friendship circle and say, okay, fine, what can I do to make my life easier, is what would actually propel you going forward.
Those are some very valuable insights. I mean, especially the one on, starting small and starting with businesses that maybe it's not the right word, but businesses that aren't so sexy, like a business that's just selling food, selling, I don't know, anything small really that you can start with today. And I think most people can start small businesses today. You don't really need a lot, especially with, I think, how you guys started Seasonal Ladies. Like someone could start with, even if they had $1,000 today, you buy a bit of stock, you start marketing it, and then you sell, you grow your capital. And then the other one as well, just on reinventing or reinvesting your capital back into your business. It's a very important one, but I think it speaks to a broader issue that obviously you cover a lot on your TikTok and Instagram pages, just on financial literacy, budgeting, managing your expenses and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I'm imploring all of our audience members here, if you guys do have the time, please go reach out to or go find Klestina on Instagram or on TikTok. Social media handle is Money Matters with Budget B, both on Instagram and TikTok, and she has some very good content on there. And she gets to the ground level on, how much does it cost to actually attend a wedding, and how much does it cost to take a trip to another town, And she breaks down those budgets and she shows people how do you actually track your expenses on a monthly basis. So I'll say that, but Christina, if you're welcome to add a bit more as well.
No, it's really, that's what I love and that's what I do. And I have started doing SME coaching, but I don't like doing it because people are
Mm.
lazy. People are lazy. You will tell them, go and do ABC. The next session will come and the person has done absolutely nothing. And as busy as I am, we are just wasting each other's time. so,
Uh,
so I really think a lot of people are capable, but they are just lazy.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why, at least not the people on this call, we know
Yeah,
that
but
they're here
they
because
are
they
here.
want to
Yes,
learn.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
So we're talking about the other ones, not you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, thank you for these insights. So I'll maybe open it up to the rest of the audience here, ask them if they have any questions for you. And yeah, you guys are free to, raise your hand or type your question in the chat. I don't know if they can even do that.
I don't know if you have to unmute. Can you allow mic? Because they all seem unmuted at the
Yeah,
moment.
I
You
mean,
can allow mic.
okay, so I
Yeah.
can allow Mike here. So I see
Mm.
Zakaria has his hand up.
Zakaria, you can go.
Hi, Zakaria, I've unmuted you, so if you can ask a question.
Yeah, Zakaria, we can't hear. Allow mic.
Yeah. Zakaria, you might be having a mic issue, actually. Yeah, I see. I think while Zakaria is figuring out his mic, maybe does anyone else have a question for Christina?
I actually don't have a question, but I just would like to say thank you so much for this insightful session. When you said people are finding lifestyle the business, we're actually just talking about me because I have rentals and And that money actually goes into my personal account, and as a result I use it up. So I feel like you're talking to me, and from today I'm going to open a new bank account for my rentals.
Yeah, no, and rentals are very easy to mix up because we also have rentals, and we have a flat at the coast, and for the longest of time the money was just going into the it was just going into the bank account, and at the end of the month, at the end of the year, if you do calculate how much tenants have paid you, zero to account for it. But this year we decided it's going to be retained, and so far it's been quite interesting to see the money grow as opposed to it just funding expenses.
Okay, I see Sim has his hand up as well. Sim, Sim, you're free to ask your question. You just unmute.
Oh, hello, hi. It's actually her, but yeah.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Simaneka. Also, thank you for the session. I joined a bit late, but I think the last bits were definitely also useful. So for me, I'd say, so I recently, I recently started my business. I'd say, so I purchased my first car using my article savings as well. So I bought a Yango, right, and I had to put like like not too much money, but like a few cents here and there just to fix it up and all of that. But so I'm maybe like 2 months in, but like my frustrations are just like finding um a driver that I can actually like rely on, right? So the first one I had, I could definitely rely on him and things were working out. But then he got a job, so obviously he had to leave. And then I got another one. He basically had the car for a week and did absolutely nothing. Um, and I had put in like petrol, basically a full tank for him, and he did nothing. So then I had to start again and basically need to find another driver. And then I struggled to find another driver. So at that point, I was frustrated and I was like, maybe I should just sell this car, you know what? But I've decided I think maybe I'll give it a bit more time. So I think maybe it's just, I don't know if this is maybe just me venting, but yeah, it's just to say, I don't know. I think I'm a bit frustrated now. I guess that I am starting off, but it's just in terms of like, how do you get to a point where I don't know if it's just basically being able to rely on people that you don't know, especially when if it's like a stranger, and obviously you need to employ somebody. And if it's a stranger, like how do you get to that point where you're like, okay, I don't know, man. I don't honestly know what my question is, but
But I
definitely like
understand.
I'm frustrated. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And I also have a Yango. I've too many things. And it also hasn't been, I think it's been first we got a Ford Figo, and we realized that the fuel consumption of a Ford Figo is quite heavy. So it wasn't ideal for a Yango. And luckily, when I was in Cape Town or Joburg in December, I chatted a lot too, because when we were in Joburg, for the most part, we were taking Yangos and Ubers to get to where we needed to go. So I made it a point to chat to the Uber drivers to just understand how the industry is, although it's a foreign country, what they are doing. And that's where I learned the fuel consumption and the engine liter of what the car should be for it to be feasible for a Yango. Then we pulled out the Ford Figo, put it in driving school, and then we put in a Polo that was on the lower end of the engine capacity, blah, blah, blah. And Polos are generally fuel efficient compared to Ford Figos. And so I think the first week or two, the driving went well. And then the second, the car broke. And the third, we went to the north and the guy's complaining the petrol consumption is not great, blah, blah, blah. And I told my husband, man, can I just not get that Polo to drive it maybe to go to work? Because it doesn't seem to work out. but but then I've realized it's a new industry and frustration will make you exit the industry prematurely. But I have friends that have Yangos, and the reason why I got into a Yango business is a friend of mine called me. She was doing a business proposal for somebody that was seeking funding from the bank to go get more youngos because it's profitable for them. And I also have another friend that has 2 youngos and they are profitable for them. So I realized it's not about the industry. The industry is there, the demand is there, because the days the guy could write, he could write consistently. So what I need to sort out is the servicing of the car, or these technical issues for them to be sorted out, and then but my driver is fine. But I think it's always good to speak to other people that have youngos.
Okay.
Or for my friend on the call, Yango is equivalent to Uber. For speak to other people that have Yango, so that those people can recommend you to other drivers that they know, because it's always better when you get a referral driver than just getting a random person like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would say, because if you think about it, the Yango industry isn't bad. It's just the person that you have that is bad, and if you can get the right person, the business model would work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I will definitely hold on a bit longer, and hopefully it goes better from there. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a question in the chat about, when starting a business, would you recommend taking a line of credit for operating costs, or would you recommend it with working with what you already have? I would say definitely working with what you already have, because even if you think about her and her Yango issue, had she taken a loan to buy that Yango car, she would have been stressed out, because now the thing is not working out the way it's supposed to work out, and now you still have a bank loan to pay, and that puts a lot of pressure. Whereas if you are starting with your own little saving, you are able to extend grace to yourself, stick through the minor challenges instead of selling, because if you go 2 months without a proper income from the Yango and you have to pay the bank, the pressure to sell will be a lot more than if the car was yours with your own saving, and you just have to work through this teething problem in order for you to overcome that. If you can, your own savings would do. If not, then yeah.
I think Zakaria tried to ask a question again. Maybe Zakaria, can you try again? Okay, I think yeah, maybe Zakaria is not able to ask the question, but yeah, thank you everyone for joining the call. I think we're about at the end. So someone did ask here, how do we join the WhatsApp group? So it's not the group, it's just a community. So essentially you'll just be getting updates from us, the OK Deal podcast or the Happy Team, in terms of, you know, whether we've uploaded the episodes, where we've uploaded them, and then also when or what our upcoming episodes will look like. We might also add a bit more content. It's just for now, just because we're starting out. That's probably what you guys will expect maybe over the next few weeks. But then we'll ramp up our offering and start uploading onto YouTube. We'll start filming episodes as well. But at least for this episode, we will upload it onto our YouTube channel as well. And then you guys can always refer back to it in the future. So yeah, to join our community, I've just copied or I've pasted a link in the chat. So yeah, please just follow that link, and yeah, you'll essentially get updates from our team on our episodes. But yeah, thank you, Klestina, for such a wonderful session. I mean, I like to consider myself an entrepreneur, and I like talking about business and understanding how businesses work. But I've learned a lot from you. I mean, previously, but I mean, understanding the business aspect of how you go about things has been, yeah, it's you've taught me, or you've given me insights that I can apply to my own ventures as well. And I'm sure many of the attendees here also felt the same. So thank you for taking time out of your day and for sharing your thoughts. It was I think this kind of work and this kind of knowledge sharing is very important for the industry, but also just for the growth of Namibia in general. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really had a beautiful moment sharing, and I think the smaller group made it more comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, thanks. Yeah, and thank you to all the attendees. I hope you all enjoy your evening. Bye, Klestina. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.